Whether you're purchasing a home or refinancing, this video is going to walk you through the pros and cons of a 15-year versus a 30-year mortgage. There's a lot of controversy in the finance world. You got guys like Dave Ramsey who say, hey, only do the 15-year mortgage. And there's some good reasons for that, right? You're going to get a lower interest rate. You're going to pay less in interest over the life of the loan. And his big thing is just eliminate the debt as fast as you can. And then on the other hand, you've got guys like Ric Edelman who says, hey, do the biggest, longest mortgage you can, do the 30-year mortgage. And his argument is that by doing the 30-year mortgage, your monthly payment is lower, and so you can put more money in investments. So Ric Edelman is a little more about, hey, let's increase our total net worth, whereas Dave Ramsey is a little more about just eliminate the debt. So this video is going to get into which is the right case for you. All right, guys, as of 17 June 2020, mortgage rates are at all-time historical lows. According to Quicken, you can get a 15-year mortgage for around 2.6% and a 30-year for about 3.25%. To put it in perspective, back in the 1980s, mortgage rates were over 16%. All right, so this is a great time to get a mortgage, long story short. Okay, so which is right for you? Before we go any further, I just want to throw this out there that when we're talking about housing, it's a good rule of thumb to keep your housing expenses less than 25% of your gross income. All right, so that's your total income before any taxes or anything is taken out. And by keeping it 25% or below, that will help ensure that you have enough income to cover all the other necessities, needs and wants, both current and future, right? So whether we're talking, just putting food on the table, paying for transportation, vacations, saving for retirement, medical bills, things of that nature. If you keep your housing expenses to 25% or less of your gross income, that should set you up for success. One benefit of the 30-year mortgage is that it provides you flexibility. Okay, why do I say that? And the reason I say that is because you can take out a 30-year mortgage, but pay it off like a 15 if you want to. All right, there's nothing saying that you can't make double payments every month, okay? But if something happens that you lose your job, or just take a salary cut for some reason, you're not locked into those higher monthly payments that come with the 15-year mortgage. All right, so it gives you a little flexibility, a little breathing room. Obviously, you should always have an emergency fund, right? 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. But that 30-year mortgage just gives you a little bit of flexibility in the event that something unexpected happens and you don't have as much income coming in, or you have some increased expenses, in some other categories. Another benefit with the 30-year mortgage is that the payments get easier over time. All right, as time goes on, you're probably getting pay raises. And we got to consider the effects of inflation. All right, so as time goes on, the value of money goes down, or the cost of goods goes up, however you want to look at it. Back in the day, your grandpa, maybe could get a gallon of gas for a nickel. Well, it's not a nickel anymore, right? But the good news is, if you're borrowing money for a long period of time, like a 30-year mortgage, as time goes on, that monthly payment is going to feel smaller and smaller. So I ran a quick example here. So over the last 100 years, inflation's averaged around 3%. And so what that means is if you started off with a 30-year mortgage and your monthly payment was around $1,000, by the end of those 30 years, that payment would only feel like around $600. So that should help your monthly cash flow a bit. As I alluded to earlier, one of the considerations is, are you more about eliminating the debt, or are you more about increasing your total worth? All right, so kind of the Dave Ramsey versus the Ric Edelman approach. So before I left, I ran some numbers here, so I just wanted to run you through this hypothetical scenario. All right, so I'm going to use those mortgage rates we talked about earlier. A 30-year mortgage, I think it was 3.25%, and the 15-year mortgage was 2.625%. So let's say you bought a $250,000 home and you put 20% down, or $50,000, and that's good, right, to avoid PMI, private mortgage insurance. So that would add to your monthly payment. So we're going to do 20% down, okay? So your mortgage is going to be $200,000, okay? In this scenario, when I mentioned the monthly payments, it's only referencing principal and interest, right? So it's not talking about taxes or insurance, because those would be the same no matter what mortgage you used. Okay, so for a 15-year mortgage, your monthly payment would be $1,345, okay? For a 30-year, it would only be $870, okay? So it's keeping an extra $475 in your pocket each month. All right, you say, hey, wait, Mike, whoa. You're not taking into account the fact that I'm paying that much more interest, over the life of the 30-year loan. So for the 15-year loan, you're going to pay a total of $42,000 in interest over those 15 years. With the 30-year loan, you're going to pay a total of $113,000 over the 30 years. And these are, approximations. I rounded to the nearest thousand. But so by going with the 15-year, you're going to save $71,000 in interest over the life of those loans. Okay. I'm going to tell you though, if your focus is on building wealth, it's better to go with the 30-year though, and invest that extra $475 each month. And when you think about it, this kind of works out perfect. If you had an IRA, individual retirement account, you can put $6,000 a year, right, which works out to $500 a month, or pretty darn close to that $475 a month that you're saving by going with the 30-year. Okay, so I'm going to run you through a scenario here talking about what would happen if we invested that $475 each month. All right, so we're going to assume that you could earn a 7% rate of return, which is extremely reasonable over the long run. We're talking a stock bond split, maybe a 60-40 or something. But just 7% would be the average annual return, okay? And if you invested that every month over the course of those 30 years, it would work out to $583,000, which is obviously a lot more than the $71,000 extra in interest that you're paying by going with the 30-year mortgage. But for the comparison to be fair, we do have to think, well, at the end of those 15 years, if I went with the 15-year mortgage, I would have that entire mortgage payment to invest, right? Because you no longer have the mortgage payment, so you have that extra, whatever it was, $1,400-$1,500 a month. And so I ran the scenario for that. So if you took that, it was $1,345, and invested that at that 7%, essentially from year 16 to year 30, right? So now we fast forward, it's year 30, whether you went with the 30-year mortgage and invested that extra $475 each month, or you went with the 15-year mortgage and you just waited until you paid it off, and then you started investing that entire mortgage payment the last 15 years. This is how it would play out. So with the 30-year, as I mentioned earlier, you would have $583,000. And if you subtract out what you would have earned going with the 15-year, which was $429,000, as well as that $71,000 difference in interest, okay, the 30-year scenario comes out on top by $83,000, okay? So if your goal is to increase your net worth, in this scenario, the 30-year mortgage would be better, assuming you invested the difference in the payment, assuming you earned 7%, and you were able to do that over the life of the loan. So at the end of the day, it's a very personal decision, right? There's the math side of it, right? And you can sit there and run the numbers like I did. But then you also have to take into account the kind of emotional or psychological aspects of it. You have to know yourself. Am I going to be disciplined enough to invest that extra money each month that I'm saving by going with the 30-year mortgage? My recommendation, if you decide to do that, would be to set up some kind of a automatic investment plan, right? So each month it automatically pulls, that $475 or whatever from your checking account, and invest it, whether it's your IRA or your 401k plan through work, or just a general brokerage account. Personally, in my opinion, is if you can do it in a tax-advantaged fashion, such as an IRA or a 401k, that's going to play out better for you in the long run. What's the answer? Which do you go with? Like I said, it's just going to depend on your particular situation, and you really have to know yourself. If you don't think they're going to be disciplined enough to set aside that extra, $475 or whatever a month, whatever the difference is between your 30-year and your 15-year payment, if you're not going to be able to set that aside, maybe it is better to go with the 15-year, for your particular situation. But if you can set up an automatic investment plan, and you're invested, fairly aggressively in stocks, you are going to come out, at least in this particular scenario, $83,000 ahead. Everyone's situation is unique. You got to run the numbers, but in today's interest rate environment, when you can borrow money for around 3%, in my opinion, it's kind of a no-brainer to go with that 30-year mortgage. All right, guys, hope you learned something from today's video, or at least got you thinking about it from a different angle. Please hit the subscribe button, share it with a friend, check out some of the other videos we got going on. And as always, if you have any ideas for content you would like me to cover, just leave me a comment in the box below. And until next time, I'll see you.